Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sandra. I'm an online physique transformation coach, and I'm also prepping for my first bikini competition at the end of the year. So if you love to train and you want to build some muscle or lose some fat, or you're just curious to know what goes into prepping for a bodybuilding competition, then stick around because you're going to love it here. Okay, today is going to be an educational video. If you've been training for a while and you're not seeing that much progress with your physique, or you want to do your first bulk and cut, this is the perfect video for you. This is going to be your ultimate guide to bulking and cutting for women. I'll talk about what bulking and cutting actually is, where you should begin, and training and nutrition for both. Okay, so firstly, let's start with definitions. Bulking is a dedicated period of time of eating in a calorie surplus in order to build muscle tissue. But a lot of women are scared of it because it can come with some fat gain, which I'll talk about how to manage this as well. Cutting is eating in a calorie deficit to reduce body fat. This is where you're going to reveal the muscle that you've built in the bulk. The goal is to lose fat but maintain as much muscle as possible. Both of these phases are strategic and need structure. Bulk incorrectly and you risk putting on a ton of unnecessary body fat and not maximizing growth as much as possible. Cut incorrectly and you risk looking soft and small and losing all your muscle. Where I see a lot of women go wrong is that they skip the bulk. And I've been here before too. We are so conditioned to think that eating less and being smaller and just chasing the lightest number on the scale is going to get us that dream body that we want. When a lot of the time it's actually eating more and trying to get heavier and build muscle that's going to give us the shape and definition that we're looking for. But I get it, it's scary. It took me a long time to accept and embrace that weight gain was necessary to build my dream physique. But it's essential. I was stuck in this cycle of always trying to get leaner, and I just ended up looking skinny fat, for lack of a better term. It's not until I did my first proper growth phase, and I wouldn't even call it a proper growth phase because I put on a ton of fat because I didn't know what I was doing. I had no one to guide me. But it wasn't until I actually spent some time dedicated to eating more and trying to build muscle that I noticed my physique started to change. That's why I am so passionate about this topic. That's why I try to guide so many women into doing their first proper growth phase and spending some time trying to build muscle, becoming friends with the scale and accepting that weight gain, because it's a little bit of temporary discomfort for a permanent reward later. So if you've been stuck in this cycle and you feel skinny, but you feel soft, then it's probably time for a growth phase. If you've been training for a while and you're trying to decide which way to go first, ask yourself these questions. 1. Do you feel like you've actually built muscle, or are you just lean with no shape? 2. Are you just scared of eating more because you don't know how to do it properly? And 3. Have you been cutting calories for ages but don't look much different, not seeing much progress? If you answered yes to any of these, it's time to bulk. If you've been in a deficit for a long time, or if you feel like you've plateaued with your muscle or strength, or you just feel flat and you lack shape and you feel soft, this is your sign to start building muscle. This is your sign to do a bulk, and I'm going to teach you how. Okay, so let's talk about training during a bulk. To be honest, your training shouldn't really change that much depending on what phase you're in. Progressive overload and getting stronger is always the goal, whether you're bulking or you're cutting. You want to lift heavy, track your lifts, and focus on good form. The difference is now you have more fuel to actually push harder and build muscle and strength. So this is the perfect time to grow. This is the perfect time to really challenge yourself. Your muscles are not going to grow unless you force them to. Building muscle is a very energetically costly process. Your body does not care about building muscle. It wants to use its energy for other things. So we have to force our muscles to grow. We have to stress them out. We have to train with intensity. A common mistake that I see so many women do is just not training hard enough. And I get it. Like I always say to my clients, this is a skill that you're going to develop over time. No one is born knowing how to train hard, but you won't know your limit until you've reached your limit. You have to get out of your comfort zone and push yourself, like challenge yourself in the gym. Do it on exercises that you feel comfortable and safe on. Don't get under the barbell and do a back squat and try send it to failure. Jump on the leg extension and do as many reps as you can until your legs are fucking shaking and you literally can't get it up. That is true muscular failure. Doing this on exercises that you feel safe and comfortable on is a good way to reach that limit, to know what it actually feels like to train hard and train with intensity, because you want to be taking majority of your sets close to failure to stimulate muscle growth. Muscle growth is stimulated in those last few reps close to failure. So you need to push hard, you need to really challenge yourself. Specificity is key here. Your training should be specific to hypertrophy, which is muscle growth. This means staying within the 6 to 15 rep range, following a structured and planned program, and trying to put all of your energy towards your training in the gym. Being specific with your training means training for muscle growth. Training for muscle growth does not look like going for long distance runs. It means that your training is tailored specifically to stimulate as much growth as possible. Not that there's anything wrong with running or 1 rep maxing or Pilates or high rocks or whatever it might be, but if your goal is to maximize as much muscle growth as possible, then you shouldn't be wasting your body's resources, like your body's calories and energy, to other activities. It should all be going towards your specific training in the gym that is designed for hypertrophy. So that covers intensity, specificity. Let's talk about volume. The optimal amount of volume for muscle growth is very individualized. It really depends on the person. It depends on your training age, your capacity to recover, how many days you can actually get into the gym, training intensity, like your proximity to failure. It depends on so many things. So I can't really give you a set number. But just for general guidelines, if you're a beginner, if you've been training for up to 1 year, then 10 to 12 sets per muscle group per week should be pretty good. If you've been training for longer than a year, then I'd maybe be looking at like 12 to 18. Obviously, the more advanced that you become, this number tends to get higher. But like I said, these are just general guidelines. Training each muscle group twice a week works pretty well for most people. Just make sure you're training close to failure, you're tracking your lifts, you're trying to get stronger each week or at least every couple of weeks, and you're following the same program for at least 8 weeks at a time. Okay, let's talk about nutrition. People hear the word bulk and think that this is an excuse to eat Domino's for dinner and McDonald's for breakfast. Bulking is not a reason to start eating like shit. It is not a reason to start bulking up on junk food. The quality of your nutrition matters just as much as the quantity. You want to eat in a controlled surplus, anywhere from 100 to up to 500 calories above your maintenance, and 500 is like pushing it, like that's a lot. Usually 200 to 300 calories works well and is safe for most people. Obviously protein should be priority. I personally like to stay on the higher end of protein myself and for my clients as well. I would say protein wise, an absolute minimum of 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight. When it comes to nutrition, when you're bulking, carbs are your friend here. Protein is king, but carbs are the queen. Your carb target should be probably higher than your protein target. Carbs are going to fuel your session, replenish your glycogen after a hard workout, and they actually indirectly help you build muscle as well. Just please, please, please don't fall into the dirty bulk mindset. Not only is eating shitty food going to make you feel like crap, your training is going to suffer, your performance is going to suffer, your recovery is going to suffer. You have to still focus on the quality of your nutrition. Majority of your diet should still be made up of whole foods so your body can function at its best, so your body can function optimally to actually build muscle. So you want to focus on nutrient dense meals, structure and routine. I would say aiming for at least 30 to 40 grams of protein every 3 to 4 hours. Space your meals out evenly, plan your meals in advance, meal prep where you can. You still want to be strategic with your food, just as if you would if you were in a fat loss phase. Make sure you're tracking your progress as well, your weight, your measurements, and your photos weekly, so you can actually keep track of how fast you're gaining and if you need to make any adjustments to your calories. If you're a beginner, I would aim for somewhere like half a kilo to a kilo of weight gain a month. If you're gaining too fast, that means you're gaining fat too fast and you're going to have more to cut later. So maybe just peel the calories back a little bit. If you're gaining too slow, that means you're likely under eating and you need to push food a little bit higher. Please don't underestimate how slow muscle growth can actually be, especially the longer that you've been training. If you're a beginner, you're very lucky because there is something called newbie gains. Basically, within your first year of training, you're going to gain muscle and strength rapidly. After this, it slows down a little bit. So just be prepared that muscle growth is probably slower than you're going to expect. But that time is going to pass anyway, so you may as well dedicate it to building muscle. In terms of how long you should stay in this phase for, honestly, the longer, the better. I would say though, absolute minimum, 12 weeks. If you're new. If you've been training for a little bit longer or you've done a growth phase before, I would say at least 6 months. The longer, the better. Like I said, muscle growth is slow, and the more time that you can spend dedicated to building muscle, the more you're going to get out of it. You can always utilize things like mini cuts if you start feeling a little bit too fluffy, start getting a little bit too uncomfortable. There are ways that you can just peel back a little bit and then shift your focus back to growth. Okay, let's talk about cutting. This is what I'm doing right now. Cutting means eating in a calorie deficit to lose fat, but preserve as much muscle as possible. The goal is to now reveal all the muscle that you've built in your bulk. Make sure that you are ready to cut before you start a cut, because fat loss can be really challenging and really hard. You got to make sure that your mind is there. The signs that it might be time to cut: 1, you've built a decent base of muscle within your bulk. 2, you've been maintaining or bulking for a while, at least 3 to 6 months. And 3, you feel mentally ready. You're mentally ready for the hunger, the tiredness, the structure. You're mentally ready for what can come with it. Like I said earlier, training doesn't change much. The goal is still to get strong, to stay strong. You still want to focus on progressive overload. You still want to focus on pushing close to failure. Right now, it's really important to maintain all the muscle that you've built. So we still need to continue to stress those muscles out. So training should not look any different. Try not to let your lifts suffer. Try to maintain that level of strength. Still continue to push yourself. Still strive for PBs. Just because you have less food doesn't mean that you're weak and fragile now. The goal is to preserve as much muscle as possible, so keep stressing those muscles out. Don't give them a reason to leave. Your energy might dip a little, so if your recovery does start to suffer, then you can start playing around with different programming and fatigue management, like reducing your total training volume, but obviously the intensity should still stay high. This is not the time to switch to lightweight and high reps. No, you need to keep lifting heavy. In terms of nutrition, the bigger the deficit, the faster the fat loss will be, but the more that you risk muscle loss and the shitter that you're gonna feel. It really depends on the person. It depends on how much fat you actually have to lose, what kind of time frame are you working with, how aggressive are you willing to go. The more aggressive that you go, the more you need to ensure that these boxes are ticked every single day. If you struggle with consistency, then I do not recommend going aggressive because you're just gonna risk muscle loss. Like if sometimes you miss a gym session or you struggle to hit your protein target some days, like that's okay, but then you shouldn't be going aggressive with your fat loss. It's better to stay moderate and go a little bit slower, but actually know that you're preserving the muscle that you've put on. I would say for most people, I recommend anywhere from a 200 to 500 deficit below your maintenance to lose fat at a moderate rate. Protein needs to stay high, potentially even higher than it was during your bulk. Because like I said, preserving your lean muscle tissue here is incredibly important. You can adjust your carbs and your fats here based on preference. I do recommend keeping your fat target around 25 to 30% of your total calories, because this is going to keep your hormones healthy, which is especially important as a woman. In order to lose fat as effectively and efficiently as possible and preserve as much muscle as possible, you want to track all your food. Plan your days ahead, especially your weekends. If you're someone that struggles with like social eating and social events, plan ahead as much as you can. Because one day of overeating on the weekend, unfortunately, can take you out of a deficit for the entire week. So you want to make sure that you're staying in a deficit consistently through the week, even on the weekends. Sleep, stress, and hydration matter so much more than people think. Sleep is going to heavily determine your hunger levels, your mood, your energy, your cravings. It is the most underrated fat loss tool out there. Obviously, it's important when we're bulking as well. It's always important, but especially when you're cutting fat, you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. In terms of how long you should stay here for, I'd say 12 to 16 weeks, absolute max. And the longer that you are cutting for, the more you might want to think about utilizing things like refeeds or diet breaks. So if your goal is to build that strong, lean, defined feminine physique, this is the best way to go. Trying to do both at the same time is going to leave you going in circles and just spinning your wheels, and your body is not going to change that much. When you first start training, yes, you can body recomp, which is building muscle and losing fat at the same time. But after about a year of consistent training, you have to go one way or the other. This is where strategic bulks and cuts come in handy. I just want to say as well that cutting is a short phase. You should be spending majority of your time either bulking or maintaining. Bulking is where your physique is actually created. The women you see with the big glutes and the big quads and the round shoulders, they didn't get there by dieting all year round. They got there by spending dedicated periods of time building muscle. Even just the word bulking is kind of scary. Let's call it like a growth phase, a muscle growth phase, a build phase, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to make you look bulky. It's going to make you look better. One of the biggest mental hurdles that I see with women going into their first growth phase is the number on the scale going up. So just remind yourself, you're not letting yourself go. You're actually doing exactly what you're trying to do. Muscle takes up space on your body. Muscle holds weight just like fat. If you're trying to build muscle, but you're getting upset every time the scale goes up, it doesn't really make sense, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to grow new muscle, and new muscle is gonna add to the weight of your body. So just keep reminding yourself that this is intentional. Instead of getting scared of the scale going up, celebrate it, because that's exactly what you're trying to do. And just remember that the fat you might gain is temporary, but the muscle you're going to build is forever. That temporary discomfort is going to give you a big reward later. It's going to help you achieve that physique that you want. It's scary the first time, but I promise you it is always so worth it. There's nothing more empowering than embracing the growth and later revealing all your hard work and a brand new physique. Yeah, you might feel a little bit fluffy some days. Yeah, your clothes might start to fit a little bit differently, but that just means that your body is responding. That means that you are building muscle. Try to learn to detach yourself from the scale and focus on the positives instead. Focus on your performance in the gym. Set little milestones, little training goals. Focus on how strong you're feeling, how energized you're feeling. And just remember that the short-term discomfort of weight gain is part of a much bigger picture. I've gone through this myself before, and I promise you, once you reveal your hard work later, it is so worth it. And the more times that you do it, the more that little bit of fat gain or weight gain, it's not gonna bother you anymore because you know what's coming later. One of my clients came to me not knowing whether to bulk or cut. We put her straight into a growth phase. We stayed there for 4 months, and then we did a 10-week cut after, and her physique completely transformed. Like, she looked like a different person. So trust the process, do it right. If you can, get yourself a coach. Highly recommend getting a coach, especially if it's your first time going through either phase. And just remember that this is all part of a bigger goal. All right, that's pretty much it to wrap this episode up. I really hope that was helpful. If you have any questions or anything, just drop it in the comments below. And if you found this helpful, please like, share, subscribe, and I'll chat to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.